Hello listeners, and welcome to this week's recording of Boomerang. Team 6 is here today and is made up of Heather, Jessica, Marcy, and we're welcoming back our engineer Gordon. Margaret and Peter are off doing other things today, but they'll be back next time. The news this week is taken with permission from the West Lothian Courier, dated the 8th of May 2025. What an amazing week it's been with all the VE celebrations, and I hope that you've enjoyed all the coverage on TV and radio, and there's certainly a number of articles in the paper. As usual, the news will be broken into four parts, and can I remind you that when you have listened to the whole recording, please post your wallet back to us from a post box and not the post office. Also, I have some additional information that I need to read to you from the Boomerang Committee. This week, we are enclosing a questionnaire with your recording. If you can, would you please complete it and return it in your wallet? If you are unable to do this, perhaps someone can complete the questionnaire for you or let us know if we can help in any way. Boomerang is conducting the questionnaire to gain a better understanding of how relevant your weekly recordings are and if there is anything we can do to improve our service to you. Your answers will help us to develop our service, ensure our records are up to date, and change our practice if necessary. If there are any questions you do not wish to answer, please feel free to leave these blank. We will gather this information from the 9th of May until the 30th of May, so please return your completed questionnaires as quickly as possible. Once we have gathered all this information, your responses will be shredded by the 30th of June 2025 and no paper copies will be retained. And so, now on to the news. The lead article this week: Savage wife killer locked up for 18 years. Veronica killed in a cowardly attack. And the article is by Grant McCabe. An NHS worker who murdered his wife just weeks after an earlier domestic abuse case collapsed has been jailed for a minimum of 18 years. Kasiake Chinyanga, 47, killed Veronica Chinyanga, who begged for her life as her husband turned on her in the back garden of their home in Broxburn, West Lothian, last June the 9th. The 42-year-old mum had predicted Chinyanga may not forgive her for previously reporting him to the police. Veronica was repeatedly struck with a pronged garden tool before being stabbed in the stomach with a knife. Chinyanga this week returned to the High Court in Glasgow, having earlier admitted to the murder. Jailing him for life, Lord Mulholland said the killing had been cowardly, savage and brutal. The couple had moved to Scotland in 2008 from Zimbabwe. They had a teenage son together. Veronica's 20-year-old daughter also lived with them. Chinyanga worked in finance for the NHS. He was training to be an accountant at the time. His wife, born Chitsido, but known as Veronica, was involved in a project to help international health workers adapt to a new country. Prosecutor Wojciech Jadelsky told how there had been a history of domestic incidents between the couple. He added, despite some being reported, criminal proceedings were not concluded due to an apparent reluctance on the part of Veronica to attend court. In particular, her second failure to attend as a witness in a summary trial on May 27, 2024, 2 weeks before the murder, led to discontinuation of the case. The charge had included a claim Chinyanga had been aggressive with his wife, struggled with her and pushed the mum in early 2023. On June 2nd last year, Veronica texted one of her sisters that she believed her husband was not going to forgive her and was bitter at her calling police in connection with that alleged incident. Hours before the killing, Veronica had been with her children at an awards ceremony for her son's football team. Chinyanga did not attend. Veronica then drove home alone. Chinyanga later picked up his stepdaughter and her boyfriend before giving her the keys for the car. The couple then ended up alone in their home that night. Veronica's last message was at 7:38 p.m, asking her daughter to bring their car back as her son needed collected. Around 10 minutes later, neighbours, including young children, were aware of a disturbance at the couple's 3-bed semi. Mr. Jadlelski then explained Chinyanga carried out a violent and sustained assault on his wife, which lasted for several minutes. At the outset, they were inside the house and then made their way into the rear garden. Chinyanga repeatedly struck Veronica on the head and body with a metal tool. Veronica desperately attempted to defend herself, but her husband continued the onslaught. She yelled, "He is trying to kill me." Audio footage from a nearby CCTV camera captured her horrific screams. At one stage, Veronica tried to clamber over their 6-foot garden fence, but was dragged back down. Shocked neighbours repeatedly yelled on him to stop. The Advocate Depute said Chinyanga did not say anything during the assault and did not seem to be panicking. He casually walked back into his house before returning, now carrying a knife. He went up to Veronica, stricken on the ground, and continued the assault, lashing out with the blade. Chinyanga was heard to shout, "Why?" The expressionless killer finally stopped, walked out his front door, and asked a neighbour to phone the police. He was initially arrested for assault with his wife, still alive at the time. But en route to Edinburgh's Royal Infirmary, Veronica's condition deteriorated. She went into cardiac arrest. Resuscitation attempts were made at hospital, but she sadly did not survive. The mum's injuries included a fatal stab wound to the abdomen, thought to have been caused by the knife. Donald Finlay KC, defending today, said Chinyanga was very remorseful for what he had done. The advocate added, "Clearly, whatever it was that brought this matter to its sad conclusion, something must have triggered it. I have tried to get to the bottom of that, but I just cannot." Lord Mulholland cut the minimum sentence from 20 years due to the guilty plea. The judge added, "While you attacked her, she screamed for her life and tried to defend herself against a multiplicity of blows that you inflicted upon her." And now over to Jessica.
A more uplifting story now. Happy birthday to Margaret, 100 years after she died at birth in Granny's house. An article by Michael Pringle. A West Lothian woman who was thought to have died at birth has celebrated her 100th birthday. Margaret Johnston was born in her granny's house in Dalmeny on April the 26th, 1925. She was born blue and it was thought she hadn't survived the birth. She had been put aside until her granny noticed a small pulse at the side of her head. Baby Margaret was then placed in a bath of warm water and was revived and is still going strong a century later. Margaret grew up in Stonyburn and spent most of her life there apart from the school holidays which she spent at her granny's. One of her 4 children, Margaret, is the last surviving sibling. She had an older sister, Jeannie, and younger sister, Olive. She also had a younger brother, George. Jeannie and Margaret were really close, and when her big sister started school, Margaret cried so much that the school allowed her to start a year early, so she went through school with her sister. Both then worked together in service in a large household in Edinburgh to a professor and his family. Margaret started working life at 14 years old and was the table maid, while Jeannie worked in the kitchen. Margaret went on to work in Bangor Hospital and in Plessy Electronics Factory in Bathgate, and then at Tippett Hill Hospital in Armadale as a kitchen assistant. She met husband Tom at Fauldhouse Miners Club, and they married a year and a half later. Tom was in the army and stationed in Newcastle, where they lived for a short time. Tom died in 2009. The couple had one son, Gordon, whom they both adored. Margaret called him her golden boy. Gordon married his wife Tracy, who Margaret treats like a daughter. They have never had a crossword, and Tracy is a constant visitor and companion to Margaret. Sadly, Gordon died late last year. Margaret does have two grandsons, Gordon and Tracy's son Andrew, who lives in Australia with his wife Laura and their 5-year-old daughter Frankie, and Colin, who lives in the United States with his wife Stacey. She would help out by watching her grandsons when they were small. Margaret often travelled to Portsmouth for holidays and to visit her brother George. In her younger years, Margaret enjoyed knitting and keeping up to date with current affairs. She also enjoyed bowling, indoor and outdoor. She liked watching TV soaps and still enjoys her daily read of the newspaper. Margaret always kept a wee pet budgie and loves when one of the staff brings her budgies in for a visit. Margaret has been living in sheltered housing in Whitburn from around 2015, but she moved into nearby Whitdale Care Home in August 2021, where her sibling Jeannie was a resident. They would spend every day together, with Margaret walking along to visit her sister. Jeannie passed away at the age of 99 years. Margaret felt she needed to move while she still had all of her faculties intact. The centenarian was an active member of Brucefield Church and had many friends, and one in particular, a neighbour, Sadie, has been a constant visitor over many years. She still enjoys an occasional sherry or a wee whisky and lemonade or a sweetheart stout and a nice meal and good plain food. Margaret said, "I think the secret to my long life has been hard work. I've had a good life, but I've no desire to be really old." Daughter-in-law Tracy joined her for her birthday celebration at Whitdale, where West Lothian's Lord Lieutenant Moira Niven, MBE, presented Margaret with a framed birthday card from King Charles. And there's a lovely picture of Margaret to accompany the article. She certainly doesn't look 100, and she looks very smart. She's got a purple dress and jacket and matching jewellery, and she's certainly got a lot of visitors, lots of balloons, and a nice card, of course, from King Charles. And over to Marcy.
Holyrood gives backing to 8 nursery closures by Stuart Somerville. The closure of 8 nurseries in West Lothian has been backed by the Scottish Government. Despite noting that there were concerns about errors and inaccuracies in the Council's consultation over the plans, it will not contest the decision to shutter the nurseries in June. Ministers had 8 weeks to consider the decision made by the Education Executive in March, and in letters issued this week confirming that they will not use their call-in powers to stop the closures. The nurseries set to close are Deans North Nursery School, Livingston, Fauldhouse Nursery Class, Ladywell Nursery School, Livingston, Linlithgow Bridge Nursery Class, St Anthony's Nursery Class, Armadale, St Joseph's Nursery Class, Whitburn. Bathgate West Nursery School and Our Lady's Nursery Class, Stonyburn, are both currently inactive and will also close. The SNP's Pauline Orr wrote on her social media page, "I am terribly saddened that following an appeal, the decision has been made to close Linlithgow Bridge Primary School Nursery. This is not the news that the Parent Council and so many people in our community had hoped for. The Parent Council worked incredibly hard to fight for the nursery to remain open, and I commend each and every one of them for their commitment to making their views heard." Councillor Orr praised parent Neil Brady Campbell, who addressed the Education Executive. She said, "I am very proud of Neil, who led a tireless effort to take a very detailed appeal to Scottish Government. Not only that, he supported other parent councils in the constituency with theirs. This is not a good decision, and it will be remembered by the community for a very long time to come." Mr Brady Campbell stressed that he was speaking solely for himself, told Local Democracy Reporting Service, "I am greatly disappointed with the decision not to call in West Lothian Council's decision, which will close numerous thriving nurseries across Linlithgow, Whitburn, Armadale and Livingston. Parent groups across West Lothian have spent the last 8 months campaigning for our voice to be heard. Today is an example of how the consultation process and the use of it by West Lothian Council has failed children, parents and the wider community. The claim by the council that this is an example of them forward planning is worrying for the future of education settings in the area, given the lack of care and attention to detail that we have experienced in this process. I witnessed the community of Linlithgow come out to fill the school hall to clearly show the community's rejection of the proposal. The community then turned its attention to providing responses to the formal consultation, with 140 people responding, which stretched over 100 pages of feedback and rejection. We drew a cross-party support for our case. Unfortunately, the Labour Party, who run West Lothian Council, progressed with a decision that has no educational benefit, is a poor long-term decision for children's education in the area, and works against reducing car congestion and pollution in our town. We would just like to say sorry to parents and teaching staff affected that we couldn't save some of our most valuable centres for educational development. I and many others greatly value the work and the staff have put in since this flawed proposal was set in motion. I hope they can enjoy the final months they have in the nurseries and with the children. In a letter to Dr. Elaine Cook, the Deputy Chief Executive for Education at West Lothian, Orlando Mason, the Deputy Director Workforce Infrastructure and Digital Learning Directorate, said, "Ministers consider that West Lothian Council has fulfilled its obligation and do not intend to issue a call-in notice for their proposal. West Lothian Council may now implement its decision to close Linlithgow Bridge Nursery School in line with the timescales set out in the proposed paper." Referring to criticism on the way the consultation was carried out at Linlithgow Bridge and other nurseries, Mr. Mason said, "I note concerns expressed during the consultation and in representations about errors and inaccuracies in some of the published documents, which, while not amounting to a significant failure to comply with the 2010 Act, may have inhibited engagement. The SNP opposition group on the council had opposed all closures and was contacted for a statement. West Lothian Council declined to comment but stressed that the nurseries could reopen in future if there is greater demand in specific communities. Writing on the council's website, Andrew Maguire, the Executive Council for Education, said, "We recognise that many of the parents who have contacted us would have liked their children to attend the nurseries that locally feed into schools their children would later attend. West Lothian Council understands that desire from parents and officers have made this point consistently to the Scottish Government and included it in our response to their consultation as far back as 2016. The Council has capacity for 6,814 nursery children, but has over 2,000 more places available than is required to meet demand, which is nearly 30% more than needed. The decline in council-run nurseries is a direct result of changes to Scottish Government national policy made in 2019, where the Government introduced funding follows the child. This means that parental choices have changed, with many parents now choosing to use their funded nursery provision at private nursery providers and childminders in West Lothian. This has significantly reduced the demand for council-run nurseries. When the national policy was introduced, there were 7 private partner providers in West Lothian for 4,290 eligible children, and 88% of those came to council settings. There are now 32 private partner providers in the county for 4,084 eligible children, and 78% of those come to the council settings. And there's a picture of 3 of the active parents, and they look very disappointed. Over to Heather.
Welcome back to part 2, which includes family announcements, and we'll start with the intimations this week. John Brady, peacefully at Broxburn Nursing Home on Wednesday the 16th of April 2025. John, aged 86 years, loving dad, granddad and great-granddad. A funeral service to which all are welcome will be held at Thomas Brown Funeral Home on Thursday the 15th of May at 10 a.m. and thereafter to Loning Hill Cemetery at 10:45. Adriano or Adrian or Adi Benassi. The family of Adrian Benassi would like to thank family, friends and carers for their sympathy cards, messages and fond memories shared of Dad's warmth and compassion to countless people during his life. The attendance of many at Adrian's funeral at St Joseph's RC Church, Whitburn, was very much appreciated. So too were the thoughts, prayers and cards of those who could not be there. The service, conducted by Father Sebastian and Deacon Ronnie, provided much comfort, as did the music led by family friend Laura Quilter and cantor Victoria Atkinson. In addition, we are grateful to the church volunteers for all their support with the service and church flowers. Our thanks also to the parish hall volunteers for working so hard in the kitchen to prepare and serve food. The beautiful floral displays provided by Florabunda, Whitburn, were commented on by many. A special thank you to Deanston Nursing Home, Lefroy Street, Coatbridge, for their compassionate care. Finally, we are grateful to the team at Grieve Funeral Directors for their sensitivity and professionalism at all times. You have all comforted us in the loss of Adrian, a devoted husband to Maureen, a beloved dad and papa, a loyal friend and a true gentleman. R.I.P. And now back to the news. Shock as girl attacked by gang in street. A 12-year-old West Lothian schoolgirl was brutally attacked on a busy town street at lunchtime as a mob of pupils surrounded her and filmed the shocking scenes. The sickening incident unfolded when the young girl, who we are not naming, was walking down a busy main road when a gang of 40 pupils gathered around her, chanting "Fight." According to the girl's mum, her daughter was concerned as others pulled out their phone. Disturbing footage circulated wildly on Snapchat shows the terrified youngster curled up on the pavement as a female pupil launched a vicious attack, reports Edinburgh Live. As the girl lay on the pavement holding her hands by her head, the girl continued to deal blows to her head with her fist, as people in the background could be heard laughing during the sickening attack. Speaking to Edinburgh Live, the parent said, "It's actually disgusting. It took place on the high street at lunchtime and the schoolyard Chinese whispers caused it. My daughter was supposedly talking about the girl, which was totally unfounded. She was cornered by at least 40 school kids shouting 'Fight, fight' with their phones out, and she didn't know what was even going to happen. Others were trying to intimidate her, but only one girl hit her." And there's a photograph of the footage of the assault that was shared on social media. And now over to Jessica.
National matters can make difference locally. Article by Chief Superintendent Greg Banks. As the Divisional Commander for Lothians and Scottish Borders Division, I'd like to focus on a couple of national matters that directly impact upon our region and demonstrate that we are delivering a national response to benefit local communities. Firstly, officers who tackle rural crime across Scotland have taken part in new training as part of a nationwide crime crackdown. Those who work within Police Scotland's Rural and Acquisitive Crime Team have been trained on VIN chip technology to prevent and tackle thefts of agricultural machinery and equipment from farms. This year alone, 34 quad bikes, 13 trailers and 10 agricultural vehicles and plant worth a total of £536,500 have been stolen from farms and rural premises across the country, the most targeted areas being the Lothians and Scottish borders. The theft of farming vehicles and machinery can have a significant financial impact on rural communities, and items such as quad bikes are vital pieces of equipment on a farm, which are often viewed as an attractive target for criminals, as they are easy to move and of high value when selling on. The VIN chip system provides an individual forensic footprint to a piece of equipment or vehicle, which can be scanned from distance using devices carried by police patrols and checks against registration databases to identify owner and, if reported, stolen items. This allows roadside checks to be carried out quickly and stolen equipment recovered. Another important preventative measure is for farm premises to sign up to the Farm Watch scheme, which allows those involved to quickly be advised of offences or suspicious activity in their area, while recommending specific prevention measures that could be taken. You may have also seen that last month, Police Scotland has launched a new unit dedicated to tackling retail crime, such as shoplifting, following a £3 million funding allocation for this financial year. The Retail Crime Task Force will target repeat offenders of retail crime by using analytical data to carry out proactive enforcement activities in areas most adversely affected. They will also work alongside stores to identify any potential security weaknesses and assist them in making their premises less attractive targets for would-be shoplifters. The Lothians and Scottish borders is not one of the most adversely affected areas for retail crime, but that doesn't mean we are immune to it, and if local policing teams throughout the division require additional support in addressing such offences, they can call upon the support of the task force, another great example of how we can flex our national resources to meet local needs. I want to finish off by advising our communities that Police Scotland, the Scottish Police Authority and the Scottish Biometric Commissioner are currently seeking opinion on the use of live facial recognition, LFR. This isn't a consultation, it is an ongoing public conversation. Members of the public can complete an online survey on the potential use of the technology in Scotland. And over to Marcy.
7,000 children helped out by clothing grants by Stuart Somerville. More than 7,000 children in West Lothian were helped with school clothing grants in the last year, councillors heard. The school clothing grants administered by the council are one of a range of services to help families struggling in the cost of living crisis. And a pilot scheme in which the council's anti-poverty service, APS, began working in schools secured more than £1 million in financial help for more than 400 families. A spokesman for the APS told a meeting of the East Livingston and East Calder Local Area Committee that as of the 31st of March 2025, 7,377 children had received help. School clothing grants are provided to parents in low-income households with £150 awarded per child in primary school and £180 for secondary pupils. Other programmes directed at families include free school meals and holiday meal cover. In the academic year of 24-25, up to the 30th of the 3rd 25, 3,187 children received a free school meal because they live in low-income households. From the beginning of the academic year, in August 2024, school holiday meal payments totalled £403,770 were made for the October, Christmas and February breaks. In addition, no payment was made during the Easter holidays, with payments continuing into the 25-26 academic year for all future school holidays. In February 25, the Scottish Government introduced free school meals for pupils in P6 and P7 if their parent or carer receives a Scottish Child Payment. We have provided an additional 176 children with a free school meal. The spokesperson added that the pilot project where APS staff had begun working out of schools had helped reach more families. After initial meetings with primary schools were held, where a contact person within each school was agreed, a round of briefing sessions were held to introduce the anti-poverty service and explain scope and remit of services provided, when and how to refer families for support. Throughout 24-25, a total of 456 families were supported by the Child Poverty Schools team at the Anti-Poverty Service, and a total of £1,120,555 of additional income secured for these families. The APS is working to help unmet need, aware that even in apparently wealthy neighbourhoods there can be pockets of extreme deprivation, and the spokesperson told councillors the co-location in schools had been particularly helpful in helping families connect with the service. The East Livingston and East Calder Local Area Committee heard that households in the ward received more than £3 million of help in the last year. The APS delivered households £2 million 635,480 million by maximising income from social security benefits for people in the ward. Energy efficiency saving of £47,153 were delivered through access to financial support and advice. Staff offered support to deal with £664,944 of problem debt, resulting in reduction in debt payments of £406,165. The service also issued 259 emergency food vouchers and 200 fuel vouchers for households at risk of disconnection. Councillor Veronica Smith asked if there was a particular benefit which was not being claimed. She was told disability benefits are often unclaimed by many for children or adults, largely because people are unaware that they are eligible for help. And back to Heather.
Review after Supreme Court trans decision. Article by Stuart Somerville. West Lothian Council has said it is reviewing current practice on toilets for trans people in the light of the response from the Equalities and Human Rights Commission to the Supreme Court. The review comes after the Scottish Trade Union Congress branded the Supreme Court's ruling that sex is defined by biology as hugely problematic. The EHRC guidance says trans women, who are biological men, should not be permitted to use women's facilities in places like hospitals, shops and restaurants, but they should not be left with no facilities to use. But Ros Foyer, General Secretary of the Scottish Trade Union Congress, said she did not agree with the Supreme Court's ruling and questioned which facilities trans people should use. A spokesperson for the council said they would ensure there are facilities for trans people, but did not envisage huge changes and were awaiting further guidance from the Scottish Government. They said, "We are aware of the recent court ruling and we are reviewing our current practice." The spokesperson added, "As with any legal or policy developments, we will consider where our services need to be updated or amended to ensure we fully comply with guidance and legal obligations. However, we understand that any required alterations within our buildings following the recent legal update will be minor." Broxburgh Conservative councillor Angela Doran-Timpson raised a motion at the last meeting of the full council, calling on the council to protect safe spaces for women. She called on the council to ensure safe spaces without delay. She told the Local Democracy Reporting Service, "I am delighted that the Supreme Court ruled that the legal definition of a woman is based on biological sex. I and the vast majority of the population of the UK agree with this common sense decision. I have long campaigned for safe spaces for women and young girls, and this decision makes this so. The safety, the well-being and the security of women and young girls is beyond the measure of costs. Therefore, I trust West Lothian Council will, without delay, ensure women and young girls in West Lothian have their safe spaces." At the weekend, the Scottish Government said it was seeking a meeting with the EHRC to make sure inclusive and consistent guidance was in place. A government spokesperson said, "We note the interim update from the EHRC and that they intend to hold a consultation with stakeholders on their forthcoming guidance. We are keen to work with EHRC to ensure consistent, inclusive and comprehensive guidance is in place following the Supreme Court judgment and following the postponement of last week's meeting at their request, have asked to meet with them as soon as possible." And now over to Jessica.
New store proposals for retail giant, an article by Michael Pringle. Lidl Supermarket has revealed its plans to open 2 new stores in West Lothian. The German-owned retail giant is proposing to open a new store in Linlithgow, as well as a store in the Craigshill area of Livingston, which is due to open later this year. The new stores form part of a £500 million investment aimed at accelerating the company's expansion across Britain. Lidl already has more than 980 stores and 14 distribution centres across Scotland, England and Wales. The discount supermarket is set to open more than 40 new stores this financial year as it enters its fourth decade of growth in Great Britain. And Linlithgow has been named as one of 52 locations across Scotland where it's looking to open new stores. Another 14 stores are set to be relocated. The plans were revealed as Lidl published its 2025 site requirements brochure, which also outlines hundreds of potential locations for new stores, including high streets, retail parks and mixed-use town centre sites. Richard Taylor, Chief Real Estate Officer at Lidl GB, welcomed measures proposed in the UK. Government's Planning and Infrastructure Bill as Lidl's ambitious expansion plans were revealed. He said, "This level of investment is a clear sign of our ambition. As we enter our fourth decade in Great Britain and hurtle towards 1,000 stores, there are still so many parts of the country crying out for convenient access to a Lidl store. That's why we welcome the measures proposed in the Government's Planning and Infrastructure Bill. They recognise the urgent need to remove barriers to development and support the kind of growth we at Lidl are working towards. Our latest site requirements brochure reinforces the scale of our ambition for the future. New Lidl stores mean new jobs, new opportunities for British suppliers and continued investment into local economies. We are proud to be one of the fastest growing supermarkets in the country, and with this investment we're taking another big step in our journey." And over to Marcy.
Patient claims hospital visits put her health at greater risk, by Ross Thompson. A West Lothian resident is calling for hospitals to be made safer for clinically vulnerable and immunosuppressed patients. Heather Pentler is urging the public to support a petition calling for new measures to protect vulnerable patients from airborne infections in healthcare settings. Heather, 40, has an autoimmune condition called antiphospholipid lipid syndrome, APS, a disorder of the immune system that causes an increased risk of blood clots. She was diagnosed with the condition when she had a pulmonary embolism at the age of 27, so has been on long-term treatment for 13 years. People with APS are at greater risk of developing conditions such as deep vein thrombosis, DVT, a blood clot that usually develops in the leg, arterial thrombosis, a clot in an artery, which can cause a stroke or heart attack, and blood clots in the brain, leading to problems with balance, mobility, vision, speech and memory. "Having APS puts me at increased risk of blood clots," said Heather. "COVID-19 is linked to clotting events, so contracting COVID is a particular risk to me with my condition. Unfortunately, the place where I am most likely to catch COVID is when I attend medical appointments. The most unsafe day I have to go through is when I'm supposed to be getting the care and treatment to keep me safe in hospital. When I go to get the infusion of my immunosuppressive treatment, I am on the ward for around 6 hours. I am the only one masking, and there are no air filters to remove any airborne viruses from the air. This makes it very difficult for me to eat or drink during those 6 hours. I have to take my own personal air filtration system with me so that I can have a drink during those 6 hours and try to remain safe from infection while doing so. The UK-wide petition to introduce new air quality and PPE rules for health and social care settings can be found at https://petitionparliament.uk petitions 7000304. The petition was started by Janet Newsom, chair of the UK Hazards Campaign, and is calling for a precautionary approach using infection prevention and control measures to protect all patients and NHS staff, but particularly those patients like Heather who are at greater risk from infection. In the first few months of 2025, the UK was gripped by a quademic of flu, COVID, norovirus and respiratory syncytial virus, RSV. Many hospitals trust across the country declared critical incidents, asking people to stay away from A&E units for non-urgent treatment also asking them not to visit if they had symptoms of viral illness and to mask if they did have to come to the hospital. Although flu and RSV are mainly seasonal, COVID remains a threat all year round. I don't have the confidence to ask medical staff to mask for me, said Heather. I believe that mirroring medical staff asking a masked patient if they would like them to wear a mask too would be a good option. But I have never had a doctor offer to wear a mask when they are with me. However, air filters would be the best solution going forward. Air filters can clean the air of many airborne viruses, including COVID and flu, so therefore would be beneficial to all patients and help to avoid sickness for NHS staff too. In recent months, evidence given at the COVID inquiry has questioned why the government's messaging on how COVID spreads has focused so strongly on hand washing and wiping surfaces, rather than delivering the correct information that COVID-19 is primarily an airborne virus, aerosol spread. In 2025, mask wearing for healthcare workers is currently not mandatory, and guidelines tend to vary between hospital trusts around the UK. Seasonal stresses such as the winter crisis experienced this year can also affect masking recommendations. Air filtration machines were placed in COVID wards and the air quality analysed with the machines switched on for a week, off for a week and then on for another week. The team found that with the machines on, it removed almost all traces of airborne, SARS, COVID, CoV and 2. Janet Newsom said, there are many airborne risks, especially in healthcare, which are ongoing and should and can be prevented, reducing the risks for patients, visitors and staff. HEPA, high-efficiency particulate air filters, can help to clean the air on wards and in high-risk areas. The UK Government and Parliament petition calling for these measures is one way that the public can let the government know that they want to be protected from airborne infections while accessing healthcare.
And that brings us to the end of part 2. And welcome back to part 3. We will start with the quiz and then we will read some of the articles relating to the 80th anniversary of the VE Day celebrations. Pub quiz first. So, 6 questions. We start with, which author wrote Catch 22? Was it A. Joseph Heller, B. Jack Higgins, C. Eric Maria Remarque? Question 2. Elland Road is home to which English football club? A. Blackburn Rovers, B. Leeds United or C. Sheffield United? Question 3. In which US city is the headquarters of the United Nations? A. Chicago, B. San Francisco or C. New York? Question 4. What is the main river that runs through Dublin? A. Shannon, B. Lagan, C. Liffey? Question 5. Sargassum and kelp are types of what? A. Seaweed, B. Dog, C. Cloud? And question 6. Which metallic element is also known as quicksilver? A. Potassium, B. Mercury, C. Aluminium? And remember to listen in at the start of section 4 for the answers. Now back to the news. Hector, 99, off to London for the 80th anniversary of VE Day. A 99-year-old West Lothian Navy veteran who served in World War II as a teenage boy is to mark the 80th anniversary of VE Day in London. Hector MacDonald from Livingston will be travelling to the capital to attend the BBC's commemorative VE Day 80 concert on May the 8th. The invitation comes as a heartfelt thank you after an interview Hector gave for a BBC segment on the upcoming celebrations, arranged by Sight Scotland Veterans, which has supported Hector over the 10 years. He served in the Royal Navy between October 1943 and September 1946. During his time at sea, he braved the perilous conditions of the Atlantic Ocean as part of the Arctic convoys, a vital but dangerous mission that helped sustain the Allied war effort. In recognition of his courage, Hector was awarded the Atlantic Star, a medal created to honour those who served in the freezing and treacherous northern seas during the Second World War. He later served in the Pacific, including operations in the Philippines and Japan. Hector recalled how when victory in Europe was declared, all seamen were given 2 bottles of beer. He said, "I joined the Royal Navy when I was 18, and after just 6 weeks of training, I was sent to sea. I served from 1943 to 1946, taking part in the Arctic convoys, and then served in the Pacific, including in the Philippines and Japan. When victory in Europe was declared, we were given 2 bottles of beer. But the war wasn't over for us. We still had to fight on in the Pacific. We were just north of Tokyo when we heard the Japanese had surrendered. I attended victory parades in Sydney and Melbourne." He continued, "It is hard to believe it's been 80 years ago since the war ended. VE Day is a day to remember what happened and is a reminder to us all about the horror of war. But it is not a celebration. Too much happened to celebrate. I'll never forget the day the war ended. There was such relief. We'd been through so much, and suddenly there was hope again." Hector, who is visually impaired because of macular degeneration, has found invaluable friendship and support through Sight Scotland Veterans. He attends the charity's Lindburn Centre in Wilkinson every Monday and Friday. Hector said, "Sight Scotland Veterans have been such a great support. They do so much for all of us, making sure we are not left feeling isolated at home." Hector, who will celebrate his 100th birthday in September, will be joined on his trip to London by Andy Cole, a Sight Scotland Veterans Sports and Partnership volunteer. Hector said, "I can't believe I'm getting this opportunity. When I heard about the offer, I was apprehensive at first, as I wasn't sure if I could manage the trip at my age. But Sight Scotland Veterans have helped arrange everything with the BBC, and I have Andy coming with me. I never imagined at my age I'd be heading to London for something like this. I'm incredibly excited and so thankful to everyone who's made this happen." And there's a photograph of Hector and his fellow naval seamen during the war, and a picture of Hector today. And now over to Jessica.
The long goodbye. VE Day was a non-event for John Mitchell, but the war was far from over as he headed to Middle East while Britain parted. This is an article by Anna Burnside. For signalman John Mitchell on the Royal Signals, VE Day was a non-event. His unit had been in Germany since April 1945, staffing the main switchboard in Munster. He was out on detachment near Cologne on a wireless truck with 3 other men when the message came through. That was how we heard the war in Europe was over. That was it. No celebrations whatsoever. He did try to tell one German the news, but struggled to get the message across. A German civilian, an old farmer, passed us on the road. I tried to communicate that Germany had capitulated, Hitler was dead and the war was over. He just shrugged and kept on walking. For John, who is now at 100, the war was far from over. His unit was broken up and put on standby to head to Burma. They had been issued with their tropical kit when America dropped the atom bomb on Hiroshima. Japan was out of the war and there was a new posting for John. He spent the last year of the conflict in Egypt, Sinai and Palestine. He can still recognise some of the places in Gaza. Now they are in the news 80 years later. He explained, most of us were under curfew and didn't see anything. I was driving a truck, so I got to see Jerusalem. I went as far as Haifa to different bases, so I got around the main bits. That's not something I would forget. After the Middle East, he returned home to Galston and picked up his job in the Ayrshire lace industry. He married his wartime sweetheart and they had 2 children. The horrors he saw on D-Day and beyond felt a long way away. John was 20 in 1944 when his signals truck bumped down the cobbled slipway at Gosport onto a landing ship headed for France. Those vessels had a speed of 13 knots, he recalled. We bobbed about like corks at sea. When we were at sea, news came through about the Normandy landings. We knew for certain that this was not another exercise, it was the real thing. John landed on Juno Beach near Curacao on June the 7th, a day after the first vessels. His memories are still sharp. The noise of battle, all the bodies, the beachmaster with a megaphone shouting to everyone to get off the beach through a break in the wire.
The next morning, when the Canadian driver drove forward a couple of yards, he hit a mine. The truck was destroyed. There are some incidents you do not forget. After a few weeks around Douvres-la-de-la-Viande, they broke into Caen. By the time the unit moved through Lisieux, then Falaise, and the Allies were advancing rapidly. It was clear to John how the war was going. After Normandy, we came up to the River Seine at Duclair and witnessed the effect of bombs having been dropped on a concentration of Germans trying to cross the river. We went on to Yvetot and Le Havre, making great advances up through France. The unit then moved on to Belgium, through Brussels. We were given a great welcome, being showered with flowers and given grapes, peaches and pears. After a stint in the Netherlands, John survived a German counterattack at the end of the year. By April, they were into Germany. Belsen had been liberated and the end was nigh. When he eventually returned from the Middle East, John put the war out of his mind for 50 years. It was when he was watching the commemoration services in London in 1994 that he thought, I should have been there. He recalled, I had to look for my medals. I found them still in the wee cardboard boxes with the ribbons, which had never been attached or mounted. John joined the Glasgow and West of Scotland Normandy veterans. He and his wife travelled to Normandy for the 60th anniversary of D-Day and were overwhelmed by the welcome. He received the French Legion of Honour medal in 2015. Today, John has 2 hearing aids, is blind and uses a walking aid. This does not keep him out of his beloved greenhouse and garden. He has just ordered 200 begonias. John is also looking forward to the British Legion's D-Day anniversary concert at Edinburgh's Usher Hall. Everyone, he says, should remember the war. It taught us to appreciate all the good things we've got. We are full of complaints, but every day is a bonus. We are better off than ever. Over to Heather.
And back to general news, and if we have time at the end, we'll read some more stories from the VE celebrations. Hard Up families given support. Last winter, over 17,420 children and families across West Lothian enjoyed warmer homes after receiving a total of £1,347,500 towards their heating bills from Social Security Scotland. Winter heating payment is paid automatically to people who get certain low-income benefits, including households with young children, disabled people or older people. It has replaced the Department for Work and Pensions, DWP, cold weather payment in Scotland. It is a guaranteed payment that everyone who is eligible receives, no matter what the weather. Cold weather payment is only paid if the average temperature falls or is forecast to fall to freezing or below for a full week. Child winter heating payment was introduced by the Scottish Government in November 2020 and is only available in Scotland. It is paid once a year to children and young people if they are under 19 years old and get certain benefits. A total of 15,735 winter heating payments worth £924,500 were made for the 2024-25, along with £1,685 child winter heating payments worth £423,000. The figures, taken from statistics released on Tuesday the 29th of April, also show that 95% of winter heating payments were made by December 2024, and 93% of child winter heating payments were made by October 2024. The Social Justice Secretary, Shirley Ann Somerville, said, "Many people are struggling with the cost of living crisis and higher energy bills. The importance of these payments was brought home to everyone this month, with the energy price cap rising by 6.4%. Ofgem estimates that this will add £9.25 a month to the typical household's energy bill. This year, we will also be providing extra support to pensioners, while the DWP winter fuel payment will only be available to some pensioners. Pension age winter heating payment will provide money to every pensioner household in the country." And now over to Jessica.
Schools to get £40,000 worth of charities cash by Ross Thompson. River Kids, a leading children's charity dedicated to supporting young people experiencing poverty, is proud to announce funding support of £40,000 to schools across West Lothian. This initiative will enable 20 local schools to provide enriching experiences, resources and wellbeing projects designed to improve the lives of children who need it most. The funding will help ensure that children from all backgrounds have access to experiences, extracurricular activities and other life-enhancing opportunities, regardless of their socio-economic status. By reducing financial barriers, River Kids is reinforcing its long-standing commitment to empowering young people and giving them the best possible start in life. The initiative builds on River Kids' track record of supporting children and families across West Lothian. A core part of River Kids' mission is to provide essential clothing, furniture and access to life-enhancing experiences. With this latest funding, the aim is to broaden opportunities for all children, ensuring they can participate fully and improve their personal development. Jan Ward, chairman of River Kids, emphasised the long-term vision of the initiative. She said, "As chairman of River Kids, I'm immensely proud of this initiative and the positive change it will bring to children whose families face financial hardship. Education and life experiences should not be determined by economic circumstances. This fund will allow schools to create opportunities for all children, helping them to build confidence, develop new skills and create lasting memories. I encourage local businesses, community members and supporters to join us in expanding this initiative so we can continue making a difference in the lives of young people across West Lothian. Bridgend Primary School is one of the schools to benefit. Executive Councillor for Education Andrew Maguire visited the school where he met with River Kids charity manager Stephen Newman, head teacher Ian Harvey and acting deputy head teacher Stephanie Stutt to learn about the impact of the initiative. Councillor Maguire said, "This is a fantastic initiative and we are extremely grateful to River Kids for this endeavour. The support will help provide families with the best possible start in life, something we are all striving to achieve." To accompany the article is a picture of Councillor Maguire and the teaching staff along with 4 of the pupils, and they're all smiling broadly, holding a huge cheque made out for £40,000. Over to Marcy.
Win a £25 gift card to spend at the centre. Staff reporter. At the centre, Livingston, there's over 150 fantastic stores to choose from, including Waterstones, Pandora, JD Sports and Hotel Chocolat, and a wide mix of fantastic places to eat, including Five Guys, Wagamama, Las Iguanas and Nando's. Whether you're planning a barbecue, picnic or al fresco dining at home, there's everything you could possibly need at the shopping centre to enjoy dining outdoors in the warmer climes. M&S has got a fantastic outdoor range including reversible striped cushions, side plates, wine glasses and a checked rug, and a timeless rattan designer hamper which features a main lidded compartment for food and 2 extra spaces for holding bottles. For away days, B&M, which is situated across from Superdrug, has a great selection of picnic bags, including a nautical navy and white striped design, which is ideal for sunny day trips. Don't forget to pop into Primark too for one of their very cool picnic blankets, including one with a floral pattern, which combines practicality with a charming design. It features lush green leaves and soft pink accents on a light background, which brings a touch of nature to your picnic setup. To be in with a chance of winning £25 gift card to spend at the Centre Livingston, simply send your answer to the question below to ros.thompson at reachplc.com by Monday the 12th. Where is B&M located? At the Centre Livingston, A, across from Superdrug, B, next to Yours Clothing, or C, near Primark. For full details of all the activities and events within the centre, check out the website of www.centrelivingston.com and at Shop at the Centre on Facebook and Instagram. Over to Heather.
Pensioners given help by service, article by Stuart Somerville. Pensioners in West Lothian have been given help to ensure they qualify for the stricter winter fuel payments. More than 100 OEPs in the county were able to claim more than £28,000 in winter fuel payments following targeted advice from the Council's Anti-Poverty Service. Councillor George Paul, Chair of Whitburn and Blackburn Local Area Committee, said a report on the service's work in the last year was a horrendous read, but he welcomed the work that had been done. One of the first decisions of the newly elected UK Labour government was to scrap the universal £300 winter fuel payment for pensioners. This winter, only those who qualified for pensioner credit would be eligible for cash help with their heating bills. The Anti-Poverty Service used Invest, an agency which helps individuals and councils understand benefits entitlements and can be used to navigate the application process for benefits. It's a tool to maximise potential benefits. A spokesperson for the Council Service told the committee the service worked in partnership with an external agency, Invest, who were able to help identify customers entitled to pensioner credit but not claiming. The Department of Work and Pensions approved the reuse of the data we held for this campaign, as we were able to anonymise customer details. The benefits team within the Anti-Poverty Service worked with Invest and were able to identify 432 households who were in receipt of housing benefit and council tax reduction and based on their income should also be claiming pensioner credit, but were not. The spokesperson added, the Advice Shop's pensioner income maximisation team made contact via telephone or letter to carry out income maximisation checks and assist customers to make claims to any benefits identified. The engagement rate for this campaign was 55%. This included those that were supported, not entitled, and those that were not interested in pursuing further. From this targeted approach, 136 customers have been supported to claim £544,299 in extra benefit outcome throughout West Lothian, with 190 claims for the winter fuel payment totalling £28,700, which otherwise may not have been claimed. The update of the year's work also showed the wider work of the Anti-Poverty Service and Advice Shops in Whitburn and Blackburn. In total, 15% of Advice Shop customers in West Lothian came from the Whitburn and Blackburn area. Successful outcomes secured for those customers included total financial gains of £2,821,608 by maximising income from social security benefits and energy efficiency savings of £113,900 £18,547 through access to financial support and advice. Support to deal with £1,123,825 of problem debt resulted in reduction in debt repayments of £512,188. The service also issued 686 emergency food vouchers and 579 fuel vouchers for households at risk of disconnection. Councillor Paul said, "Your report is welcome, but when you're reading it, it also is kind of frightening, the amount of poverty that's in West Lothian. It's horrendous reading, but it's welcome that something is being done. God knows what would have happened to people otherwise." Just over 2,000 of the 14,000 plus inquiries to the service came from the Whitburn and ward last year. SNP Councillor Mary Dixon agreed with Councillor Paul. She said, "When I read this report, it's just dismal. It's sad to see how many people in West Lothian actually need help like this, and it's from all areas, from cancer patients, children, clothing grants. It's really sad. Like George, I'm pleased that someone is there looking out for other people." And welcome back to part 4, and we'll start with the answers to the quiz. So, question 1, who wrote Catch-22? And the answer was A. Joseph Heller. Question 2, Ellen Road is home to which English football club? And the answer was B. Leeds United. Question 3, in which US city is the headquarters of the United Nations? And the answer is C. New York. Question 4, what is the main river that runs through Dublin? The answer is C. the Liffey. Question 5, sargassum and kelp are types of what? And the answer was A. seaweed. And question 6, which metallic element is also known as quicksilver? And the answer was B. mercury. And back to general news. Parliament visits now available from MP. Livingston MP Gregor Poynton is encouraging schools across the area to take up the opportunity to visit the UK Parliament. This follows the launch of a new booking system by the Education and Engagement team, enabling schools to arrange free visits to the UK Parliament from autumn 2025. Mr Poynton has written to local schools, sharing details of the scheme and encouraging them to explore how they can get involved. He said, This is fantastic news. We should be inspiring young people to learn about the history of democracy and to engage directly with their elected representatives. I hope that schools across the constituency take full advantage of this opportunity. It's also a chance for pupils to experience some of the iconic sites of London. I look forward to welcoming schools and young people from Livingston to Parliament and having the opportunity to speak with them in person. Sullivan supports MS Society. Bathgate and Linlithgow MP Kirsten Sullivan has committed to speaking up for the MS community in the UK Parliament. Kirsten attended a parliamentary event hosted by the MS Society to learn about issues facing the multiple sclerosis MS community as part of MS Awareness Week, which ran from April the 28th to May the 4th. The event, which followed the government's recently announced plan to change disability benefits, saw MPs from across the political spectrum meet with people affected by MS. They were also joined by familiar faces, including comedian Ivo Graham, legendary R&B artist Junior Giscombe, and former Lioness captain Mary Phillip. Kirsten said, I'm proud to join the MS Society in speaking up for the MS community. Working in collaboration with the charity, I look forward to drawing attention to the challenges that people with MS face and calling for change. Dr. Sarah Rawlings, Executive Director of Research and External Affairs of the MS Society, added, "We're so glad that Kirsten joined us in the Parliament today to learn more about the reality of living with MS. The condition can be debilitating, exhausting and unpredictable, and almost half of those affected rely on PIP to help maintain their independence. So it's vital we work closely with MPs from across Parliament to highlight issues like access to effective treatments, disability benefits and the impact of the government's welfare changes. We look forward to working with Kirsten to raise these topics in Parliament and champion the voices of the MS community. With her help, we can bring MS to the forefront of the political conversations and make real change. Over 150,000 people live with MS in the UK, including 17,406 in Scotland. To find out more about MS and the MS Society's work, visit www.mssociety.org.uk. And over to Jessica.
Bids from groups top £1 million figure by Stuart Somerville. Bids from voluntary groups seeking help from West Lothian Council topped more than £1 million, 3 times the £372,000 the council had to give, councillors heard. Out of 34 charity groups which bid, only 15 were awarded funding, and with more than half the third sector services total budget of $944,000 going to just 5 organisations, there have been calls from the local voluntary sector gateway for the budget to grow to meet rising demand. The bulk of the budget funds direct services for the council. The council's Economy, Community Empowerment and Wealth Building PDSP heard that 5 organisations have been awarded service level agreements to deliver services. These are West Lothian Youth Action Project, £190,000 for community youth services, HCL Transport, £182,119 for community transport, Voluntary Sector Gateway West Lothian, £63,770, Citizens Advice Bureau, £76,266 to provide additional advice services across West Lothian, and the Benny Museum, £51,142 for the provision of museum services in Linlithgow and Bathgate, Linlithgow Heritage Trust. In the Third Sector Support Fund, 19 organisations lost out this year. They had bid for £501,312 of funding. Among the organisations which lost out are Fauldhouse Community Development Trust, the Food Train, Kids Co, West Calder Hub, West Lothian Race Forum and Smile. In a report to committee, Claire Stewart, the Community Wealth Building Manager, said, in total, 34 applications were received, totalling £1,003,449, with an available budget at the time of £362,613. An additional £10,000 was allocated as part of the process for funding that is available to West Lothian Council from the Lintel Trust to support a community project. This brought the total available to £372,613. Among the winners were Linlithgow Young People's Project, the Venny, Boghall Drop-In, Stonyburn Future Vision Group and Armadale Playworks. All applications were assessed by a panel composed of representatives from the NHS, Voluntary Sector Gateway and a range of council services, including anti-poverty, community regeneration and community wealth building. Following the assessment of all applications, the panel made recommendations to the Head of Planning, Economic Development and Regeneration that the £362,613 be allocated to 15 organisations. All 19 groups which did not receive funding this year have been offered guidance for future applications. The report added, the panel took into consideration a number of matters in assessing all applications, including the quality of the application against the criteria for funding, the provision of support in the areas of identified deprivation, match funding, the outcomes that would be achieved by the investment and the potential for some projects to source funding through other funds, in particular the availability of local mental health funding. Officers contacted all unsuccessful applicants and offered a series of dates to give more detailed feedback on their application on a one-to-one basis, either in person or via Teams. To date, 8 organisations have requested feedback. Stuart Barry, the operations manager with the VSG, welcomed the feedback offered to the groups, saying it was helpful to organisations in seeking funding in future from both the council and other sources. Mr Barry said, the continued financial support from the council, the third sector, is welcome and makes a huge difference to organisations and to communities in West Lothian. However, the overall £944,000 has remained static for a number of years now. The sector is facing significant financial pressures like everyone else, and given the council receives an uplift to its annual budget, could an uplift to this funding be considered in the future for the third sector? And over to Marcy.
Council dealing with suspected cyber attack by Ross Thompson. West Lothian council bosses are working with the police and Scottish Government after a suspected cyber attack. In an email sent to parents in the area, the council confirmed that all schools in the area would be open as normal this week, although it added contingency plans were in place to ensure schools can operate with minimal disruption until this issue is resolved. With pupils currently sitting exams for National Fives, Hires and other qualifications, the authority also stated that examinations will not be affected. In a statement, Council said, "This is a live criminal investigation and we are working with all relevant external agencies, including Police Scotland and the Scottish Government. There is no evidence that any personal or sensitive data has been accessed at this stage. All West Lothian Council schools will be open as normal this week, with contingency plans in place to ensure schools can operate with minimal disruption until this issue is resolved. SQA examinations will not be affected. There is no evidence at this time that the Council's corporate and public access networks are affected by the attack. Often a criminal group will demand a ransom in exchange for decryption. West Lothian has 13 secondary schools, 69 primary schools and 61 nurseries. The incident came as a major retailer battled with the fallout from substantial cyber attacks. On Tuesday, Co-op was unable to take card payments in some stores, and shoppers have faced empty shelves because of an ongoing attack, for which the firm has apologised, after it confirmed hackers had extracted members' personal data such as names and contact details. Marks & Spencer is dealing with disruption caused by a recent cyber incident after first witnessing issues 2 weeks ago. The retailer has reportedly been unable to offer meal deals in some stores after product availability was hit. And over to Heather.
Solar farm cash can benefit all. Article by Stuart Somerville. Communities in West Lothian should benefit financially from solar farms and all other forms of new net zero energy, councillors have agreed. Communities in West Lothian should benefit The county has been a pioneer in the community benefits from wind farm technology, having dispensed millions in payments from energy suppliers occupying the country's 5 wind farms. Now those who live next to newer technologies such as solar farms could see community benefits as Holyrood takes to standardise the practice begun by wind farm owners. For almost 20 years, communities living close to the wind farms have received cash payments for projects on an annual basis. Councillors agreed that West Lothian represents a model which should or could be replaced across Scotland as Holyrood looks to develop guidance on best practice and community benefit from net zero energy. Councillors backed a response to a Scottish Government consultation from the Council's Community Wealth Building team, which calls for all forms of net zero technology to bring community benefits to towns and villages nearby. These include wind farms, solar farms, battery storage, hydropower, hydrogen storage and other developing technologies. Council officers are already in discussion with solar farm developers in the county and looking forward to build community benefits into their long-term plans. Claire Stewart, Community Wealth Building Manager, in a report to the Council executive said, community benefits sit independently of the planning and consenting system, and there is no mandatory requirement to provide them, although most developers do. As a result, the amount and way community benefits are distributed varies throughout Scotland. In West Lothian, the approach has been, where possible, to concentrate the wind farm community benefits to within 10 kilometres of any development, 70% of funding within 5 kilometres and the remaining 30% within 10 kilometres. This is focused on communities and not on other boundaries like community council areas. Funds are distributed through the Community Development Trust to projects in the communities close to the wind farms. The trust is made up of council officials, local councillors, local community members and the energy developers and suppliers if they wish to take part. Councillor Tom Conn had in a previous meeting asked about the potential community benefits from solar farms in the Linlithgow ward and the need for a standardised agreement of contributions to communities relevant to how they are affected. Mrs Stewart stressed that such cases would be taken on a case-by-case level at the moment until Holyrood guidance on good practice is published. She said there are very few solar farms across the country on which to draw comparisons. We'll continue to work with the developers to get the maximum community benefits into our area. Rest assured that officers will also work to get to the best benefits into the community. Councillor Sally Pattle said, we need more guidance. We have just approved the 2 solar farms in the Linlithgow ward. We are going to need to look to the future and how we can best get the community benefits from all these different types of renewable energies that are going to be a lot closer to people's homes. Councillor Pauline Stafford said that to achieve net zero goals by 2050, it was important to bring people into the decision-making process and to give them a sense of ownership. Council leader Lawrence Fitzpatrick said more community benefit could also mean the planting of more woodlands and wildflower meadows. He suggested that any guidance should not be the usual light touch, but more robust in securing benefits for communities. And now over to Jessica.
Des McLean to host some of the best talent in Scotland at Festival by Michael Pringle. Revellers at this year's party at the Palace in Linlithgow will be splitting their sides with laughter thanks to a host of fantastic comedians. Host Des McLean will bring together the best of Scottish talent and his picks from the fringe for this year's comedy stage lineup. While the family fun weekend will see Boney M, Squeeze, the Hoosiers and Tom Meehan rock the music stage, Party at the Palace has also built a reputation as hosting the most unique open-air comedy club in Scotland. Funny man Des McLean will host an expertly curated comedy lineup over the weekend of August the 2nd and 3rd in Linlithgow, which will include international TV stars like Glenn Wool, Susie McCabe, Tiff Stevenson, Liam Farrelly, Kim Blythe, Ray Bradshaw, Josie Long, Roscoe McClelland, Chris Forbes and Ty Boyd. With the iconic fringe going on in August too, Des picks out his favourites from the programme there, alongside the turns he feels have to perform whether they're doing Edinburgh or not. He said, if this was a gig, this is a 40 quid ticket for this lineup. They're all headline acts. I know it's a cliche, but there is genuinely something for everyone, for every taste. International comics, current and previous award winners, big box office hits, and then really offbeat stuff too. I'm comparing and hosting bits in between as usual because I know the audience and we have regulars who come every year. We must be the only comedy tent at a festival where we have our own regulars. Punters come an hour early to get their bales of hay to sit on. It's a real part of why they're at the festival, not just a passing interest to tune in and out of. Usually comedy can be a background thing at an event like this, but this is a comedy club in the fresh air. It reminds me of the beer garden tour Susie McCabe and I did after lockdown. People can sit back, relax and enjoy it. It's a real cracking event and experience with a certain demographic, family vibes. It's such a nice, not up itself event. I love it. Often with music festivals, there's a tent in a corner and it's an afterthought, but this has a following and a purpose. People come for it as an attraction in its own right. Des is thrilled at the lineup he has managed to put together this year, and he's confident it rivals anything at any major comedy event. And over to Marcy.
Teenager charged following incident. A teenage boy has been charged following a mass ramming outside a shopping centre in Livingston. Emergency services were called to Almondvale Retail Park in Livingston on May the 2nd after a mass gang of youths were allegedly fighting in the street. Images taken from the scene showed 4 police vehicles and an ambulance at the retail park. A large group of youths dressed in black could also be seen in the street. A video later shared on social media showed a man kneeling on the ground while several people were heard shouting, "Come on." A spokesperson for Police Scotland said, at 6:50 p.m. on Friday, May the 2nd, we received a report of a disturbance at Almondvale Way, Livingston. A 16-year-old male youth charged in connection and will be reported to the relevant authorities. Inquiries are ongoing. If you can help, call police on 101, quoting incident number 4689 on Friday the 2nd, May 2025. And over to Heather.
And now for a round of sport. Lions flop in finale as Falkirk take the title. Livingston 0, Partick Thistle 1. The tightest finish in the Scottish second tier since the 1909-10 season ended in heartbreak for Livingston, succumbing to a Partick Thistle side motivated by sneaking into the playoffs themselves at Raith Rovers' expense. In the end, the result mattered little as Falkirk came from behind to defeat relegated Hamilton Accies 3-1 in Grangemouth, denying the Lions the title even if they had beaten the Jags. Not since Leith Athletic and Raith Rovers battled for promotion before the First World War had commenced, had 2 teams entered the final round of fixtures locked on the same points tally. And after 36 games, it is the Bairns who go straight up to the Premiership, while the Lions must fight it out via the playoffs to win promotion. Gutted gaffer David Martindale said, "The league wasn't lost tonight. It was good to get into the last game, but it wasn't in our control. It's really difficult to get across the line. Now I remember sitting in the Hampden changing rooms in January, late December. I thought, nah, the gap's too big. I can't see Falkirk losing enough games to give us the opportunity. I think the league table doesn't lie. I think Falkirk won more games of football than us. They scored more goals, so congratulations. It's been a long time coming. Huge football club, big fan base, good stadium, good surface, so I look forward to seeing Falkirk in the Premier League, and congratulations to all the players and staff, fans, directors, everybody at the club. They deserve it because they've won the league fair and square." An unfortunate own goal just before half-time as Macaulay Tate slid into block a Canio Megwa cross was the only difference between the two sides, each buoyed on by a bumper crowd who kept up the raucous backing of their respective sides until the final whistle, allowing Falkirk to lift the trophy and expelling Livy into the playoff race. It could have been a different story as Livingston created a glorious chance to take the lead after 5 minutes. Christian Montano flicked on a clearance into the path of Robbie Muirhead, who honed in on a goal, but David Mitchell extended a leg to foil the striker. The home side struck the bar minutes before half-time, as Muirhead laid the ball into the path of Stephen Kelly, but the midfielder's placed shot cannoned back off the woodwork. Thistle camped in their own half for the duration of the second period, frustrating Livy with a Stevie May shot right on the 90-minute mark, well saved by Mitchell, the best chance for the home side, leaving manager David Martindale to reflect on what could have been. He added, "I think the players have got to take a lot of credit. I'm proud, honestly, I'm proud of them. I think they've really grown month on month. They've progressed as a group. They've got us into this position. They've won silverware, the SPFL Trust Trophy in March, and they finished second in the league in the playoffs. So I think there's a lot to be happy about what's going on at Livingston now, as it was easy to get lost in the negativity of the previous season. But now we're in a positive place off the park, and I think they're in a positive place on the park. I think the players got to take huge credit for that. Fans are buying in as well. That's probably one of my biggest bugbears. I want that every week. Livingston must now wait for the outcome of next week's Premiership quarter-final tie between Ayr and Partick to see who they will face in the semi-finals over May the 13th and 16th. And over to Jessica.
Cricket Club's 3-wicket win at Trinent. Livingston Cricket Club beat Trinent and Preston Village by 3 wickets in the East of Scotland Cricket Association First Division on Saturday. The win at Polwarth Oval and a 51-run victory over Stuart Melville's 2 in the first round of games has the West Lothian side joint top of the table. Trinent won the toss and elected to bat first, but were all out for 111 in 30.1 overs. Livingston's best bowler was Akmal Rana, who took 5 wickets for the loss of 20 runs, including 9 overs and 2 maidens. Rana had support from Ahmed Ali, who took 2 wickets, while Faisal Khan, Afzal Sipra and Asif Sohail took 1 each. In chasing, Livingston got to 112 runs for the loss of 7 wickets in 33.5 overs. Their opening pair, Ahmed Bilal's brisk 27 and Joe Barker's 23, set the tone, and Ahmed Ali stayed not out on 14. Livingston travelled to face Marchmont at Cavalry Park 1 on Saturday with a 1 p.m. start. Livingston 2s clocked up a 128-run win over Grange 3 at Dresselrig on Saturday, leaving them joint top of Division 4, continuing the form that earned them a 13-run win over Hoyk and Wilton last week. Livingston lost the toss and batted first. Habib Bukhari was first out, but Kamlesh Marshia fell for 26 off 36 balls, hitting 4 boundaries. Sri Awasthi and J. Karthikeyan built a 40-run partnership before top-edging a delivery from Nihil Rizat. Karthikeyan was given LBW at 98 for 4 in 26 overs, but Hamed Ahmed smashed 78 runs from 44 balls and Hassan Khatak 45 off 53 balls. Bowlers Kashif Khalid delivered 3 wickets for 11 runs and Abhinav Singla took 3 wickets for 20 runs, while Faraz Hussain took 2 for 21 in 8 overs. Kuram Walayat gave away just 13 runs in 7 overs, picking up a wicket. In response to Livingston's 227 for 4 in 40 overs, Grange 3 were all out for 99 for 10 in 33.5 overs. Livingston 2 host Dunfermline and Carnegie 2 at Dresselrig on Saturday with a 1 p.m. start. Livingston 3 beat Kirkbree 2 by 6 wickets. Livingston 3 beat Kirkbree 2 by 6 wickets in Division 6 on Saturday, clocking up 89 for 4 in 30.1 overs to their opponents' 88 in 33.5 overs. In doing so, they bounced back from an 89-run defeat to Drummond Trinity 4 the previous week. Chasing 89, Livingston opener Arsh Jindal fell early, but Shahzad Gul batted 26 before being caught. Vijay Gupta kept the scoring ticking, and Gunde hit the winning runs in the 31st over for an excellent 6-wicket win. And to accompany the article, there's a smiling portrait of Akmal Rana, who took 5 wickets for 20 runs against Trinidad. And over to Marcy.
Monarchs land first win of the campaign. Stellar Edinburgh Monarchs made it over the line for their first win of the season as they beat Berwick Bandits 46-43 in the BSN series at Armadale Stadium on Friday night. The win was largely thanks to a memorable performance by Victor Palovara. Swedish reserve Palovara won heats 2, 4, 8, 12 and 14, and the last heat decider against top bandits Craig Cook and Drew Kemp on the night that he nor the home fans are likely to forget. Team manager Alex Harkas said, "I'm very pleased we won, obviously, but we didn't half make it hard for ourselves. We only had 2 riders who won a race, but Victor won 6 of them. I was very sorry he didn't get his maximum because he deserves it. We need improvement elsewhere in the side." Racing fell short of the high standard set the previous week, but the closeness of the scores kept things tense. Both sides will look back on heats in which they might have scored more points. Justin Sedgman was the only other Monarchs race winner, taking 1 heat and heat 1 and 13. Monarchs did get the aggregate bonus, although they would probably need to win at Glasgow Tigers to progress in the competition. Monarchs are at Glasgow Tigers on Friday at the Peugeot Ashfield Stadium starting at 7:30 p.m. And over to Heather.
And that brings us to the end of part 4 and to the end of this week's recording. Please remember to return the questionnaire and post your wallet in the postbox. So it's goodbye from the members of Team 6, our engineer Gordon, our readers and copy distributors Heather, Jessica and Marcy. So goodbye until next time.